It's the playoffs, we're mic'd up, and we got 10 all-star worthy backpacking tips for you. And this first one has almost become a habit for me. I'm a creature of habit when I go out there on trail. I tend to do a lot of things the same way. And for a lot of years, one of those things that I did the same way was forget my headlamp. I would get to camp, get everything set up, go and, start a fire, hang out at dinner or whatever. And it would be around that time when the sun starts to go down and it starts getting dark that I realized, crap, I left my headlamp in my shelter and I got to go back to my tent and dig out my headlamp. One of the things that I've started doing, and is, like I said, has become a habit for me, is every time I get to camp and I get my shelter set up, the first things that happens, headlamp goes around my neck, just gets tucked into my shirt, and that is where it stays. That way I know that I've got my headlamp on me and I know I'm not going to be hunting for it when the sun goes down, when you actually need it. Next is a tip that I've talked about previously in the past, and that is carrying a spare bottle cap for our smart bottles. They are so ridiculously small, it really takes up no space in your backpack. It's super easy to just toss one in your first aid kit, or if got a little bit of a ditty bag or like a repair kit. But another thing that these are really beneficial for, besides just having as a replacement for your smart bottle, is using the bottle cap to protect your hand or your foot when you're driving in a tent stake. And it beats bashing your stakes in with a rock. Multi-purpose backpacking items are a great way to shave weight and unnecessary bulk out of our backpacks, and a bottle cap is one of those ways to do so. For snacks and foods when we are out there on trail, it is tough to find a more calorie-dense food item than peanut butter. Looking at the back label of this jar here, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter gives you 100 calories. As we're out there hiking, we tend to burn a lot of calories. And a big concern a lot of people have is, how do you get all of those calories back in? One of the ways that I do it is I carry peanut butter with me. Not always in the jar like this, but on my next backpacking trip, this jar probably will go with me. It's, it's pretty close to being empty, but a lot of times I'll just go to like a gas station or, a diner or whatever, and I'll just swipe a couple peanut butter packets, or I've seen it before in the little squeeze tubes. Obviously, as long as you're not allergic to them, peanut butter is a great way to get calories into you, and it's delicious. For dinners out in the backcountry, I almost exclusively do rehydrated meals. I just like the benefit of being able to carry a full meal at a lighter weight and just, rehydrate it when I get to camp. It's just kind of my go-to. This one might seem a little bit weird, but something that I've seen a lot out in the backcountry is I've seen a lot of people just kind of try and eyeball and guesstimate the amount of water that goes into their rehydrated meals. Before I started carrying smart bottles, I used to use Nalgene bottles, and Nalgene bottles always have the markings on them. But since I transitioned to smart bottles, you've got like this Bottle Genius sticker here from Hike Life you can put on that gives you all your different measurements. Or like what I used to do before with smart bottles is I would just mark it with a Sharpie. It tends to last pretty good. Just a couple simple ways, to carry water measurements with us if you're ever one of those people that tends to struggle with the amount of water to put into your, backpacking meals and your rehydrated meals. Just mark up your water bottle and, use that as your water measuring device. I'm not even going to put the water bottle away because the next tip involves the water bottle as well. If you've ever struggled to find level ground for a spot to set up your tent or your shelter, I've never used this one myself, but I've seen other people use it and they say it works really well. But using your water bottle kind of as a level, if that makes sense, I guess sort of what you're looking for is when you set your bottle down on the ground and you kind of look at it from the side, you want like a 90-degree angle between the plane of your water and the edge of your bottle. Like I said, this isn't one that I personally use, but I have seen people use this out in the backcountry before, and I just thought it was a tip worth passing on. If you find yourself in a situation on a backpacking trip where you're going to bed and you've got wet socks with you, obviously my socks here are not wet, but just, pretend they are, for example. This one might drive some people nuts. Some people think this one was a little bit gross, but it's something that I do and it works really well. Is I'll just take the socks, stick them underneath my sleeping clothes right up against my skin, usually up in my chest area or, kind of in my chest, stomach area. And just my body heat is usually enough to dry those out overnight. And I get a nice dry pair of socks to put on in the morning. Like I said, some people find this one a little bit gross, but it does work. So, if you want to have dry socks in the morning, sometimes you kind of got to just suck it up. And honestly, after, like the first couple minutes, you don't even really notice it, and it's not as gross as you might think. One of the big trends in backpacking is filming YouTube videos and putting your pillow on the grass with a pillow covering on it and getting grass all over your pillow covering. It makes your YouTube videos really good. Having a strap on your pillow has become one of the biggest trends in backpacking. Everybody seems to rant and rave about, having a little elastic strap so you can secure your pillow to your sleeping pad so it doesn't slide around. And yeah, they're kind of cool and it's effective. But when I first saw it, the first thought that came to my head was, has everybody forgot what we did before? You just take your spare shirt, you slip that over the end of your pad, stuff the pillow in. Your pillow's not going to slide around, and it also gives you that nice, almost like a little pillowcase up against your face, a little bit nicer than the rubbery feel of some of these backpacking pillows. This is what we used to do before these sleeping pad straps were the big rave, and I don't know why people have forgotten about how effective and awesome this actually is. Next 3 tips are going to help with one of people's biggest issues in backpacking, and that is dealing with condensation in your shelter. The first tip for dealing with condensation is, now this one's weather permitting, if you know that it's not going to rain overnight, you've got pretty good weather, one of the biggest things you can do to help eliminate condensation, and this one will pretty much eliminate condensation in your shelter, and that is keep your door wide open as much as you possibly can. If you've got vestibules like this tent does here, keeping one of the vestibule doors open, get as much airflow throughout that tent as you can. Like I said, this one is pretty much going to eliminate condensation for you altogether. Another great way to help, promote more airflow throughout our tent, because airflow throughout our tent is going to be the biggest thing to help eliminate and reduce condensation, is using our pullouts on the side of the tent. But instead of like most people do and just hook your pull up to the ground and have it pull this way and it's pulling sort of down and away, what I like to do is I take a stick and use that to kind of prop the pullout, so the pullout's kind of being pulled up and away a little bit, and it's going to give you a little bit more headroom, but it's also lifting the bottom of the rainfly up and it's promoting a little bit more airflow. But where this helps as well is, like I had mentioned, pulling this up and away, and it's going to pull the fly up and away from you. It's going to give you more headroom inside the tent. So if you do end up getting condensation, having the sides of the tent pulled up and away from you are going to help eliminate that from rubbing against you, and you're not going to get your body rubbing up against the cool, wet walls of the inside of your tent. Eventually, we're going to have one of those nights where it's going to rain, it's going to storm, we're going to have to seal everything off, and especially if we're in a single wall tent like this one here, we're going to get some condensation inside our tent. And one of the most important things we can do in that type of situation is just have a packed towel handy. It's probably the biggest thing you can do to help combat condensation, because no matter what you do, eventually you're going to be caught in a situation where condensation is going to be your reality. So have a towel and know how to deal with it. And as we're wrapping up these 10 tips in this video here, if you're looking for some more backpacking tips and tricks, check out either of these videos here. I'm sure you'll find something in those that you will enjoy. And as always, I am Matty. Thank you so dang much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Go Oilers, go.